After years of silence, Prince William and Prince Harry finally reunited. Not in front of cameras or crowds, but inside a private royal chapel on October 1st, 2025. The world held its breath. No handshake, no hug, just raw tension, until William spoke. But it wasn't about the feud or the royal drama. It was about Diana. His tribute to their mother stunned the room and changed the tone entirely. Harry's response? Quiet, emotional, unscripted. And in that moment, everything shifted. This wasn't just a reunion, it was a reckoning. And it all began with her name. The moment of reunion. The announcement came quietly. A leaked press advisory marked private royal schedule, October 1st, 2025, 11 a.m. For the first time in nearly 4 years, Prince William and Prince Harry would meet face to face. The location? A private family chapel on the Sandringham estate, where no cameras were allowed, and even aides had been reduced to a skeleton staff. Only those with personal ties to the late Princess Diana were permitted inside. The tension was unlike anything the monarchy had faced in decades. This wasn't about official duties, ribbon cuttings, or royal tours. This was personal. This was about two brothers, broken by time and scandal, standing under one roof again. Aides were on edge. Press officers were told to remain silent. And even palace insiders had been given strict orders. No recordings, no leaks. But it was too late. The world already knew. At 11:08 a.m., the chapel doors opened. No applause, no fanfare, just footsteps and silence. William entered first, flanked by one senior aide. Harry followed moments later, nodding once. Their eyes met, briefly. There was no embrace, no smile, but there was also no turning away. And for a monarchy defined by cold formality, that alone was progress. The public, glued to their screens for any sign of humanity, held its breath. For months, rumors swirled that a reunion was impossible. Some said Harry would refuse. Others claimed William had banned him outright. But now, here they were. Not for the crown, not for tradition, but for her. The woman whose absence had shaped them both. And though no cameras were allowed inside, one quote leaked just hours later would change everything. Because when Prince William stepped forward to speak, no one expected what he would say. Not about the feud, not about duty, but about Diana. The mother they lost, the bond they shared, and the one person powerful enough to bring them back to each other. Opening lines, Prince William began slowly, deliberately. In a voice described as level but tight with emotion, he didn't open with apologies or accusations, but with memory. "She once told us," he said, "that love is the only legacy worth leaving. I forgot that. For a while I forgot her words." It was a moment no one predicted. Instead of blaming Harry or defending the palace, William turned to the one name both brothers still held sacred, Diana. He spoke not as a prince, but as a son. Referring to their mother as the light between us, William recalled a childhood moment in 1993, when Diana had taken them to a homeless shelter in Brixton, reminding them, "These are the people we serve, not the cameras." He quoted her directly, using words she once whispered to them before a royal appearance. "You are more than the name on your badge." The tone in the room shifted. What had begun as a tense reunion now felt like something deeper, a resurrection of the mother whose presence had never truly left. William acknowledged the distance between them. "We've both made choices," he said, "but none that she would have wanted to divide us." He didn't name Meghan or mention interviews. He stayed anchored in one idea: Diana's legacy. By the time he finished, there wasn't applause, just silence. But it wasn't cold, it was reverent. Because the moment wasn't about Charles, or Camilla, or the crown. It was about a woman born in 1961, lost in 1997, and still powerful enough in 2025. to shift the hearts of kings and princes alike. William stepped back, and all eyes turned to Harry. For years, Harry had spoken about Diana in interviews and documentaries, but never like this. Not in front of William. Not from the heart of the family. And now, with the floor open and the room silent, it was his turn to respond, not as the rebel prince, but as her son. Confession from William. Before Harry could speak, William stepped forward again, this time not with a tribute, but with something heavier. A confession. He looked down, voice quieter. For years, he said, I carried the image of Mum like a shield. The public saw her as perfection. I felt I had to protect that, even if it meant protecting the wrong people. It was the first time William had admitted that silence, his silence, may have caused harm. He revealed that behind closed doors, he had battled guilt. In 2019, during the height of Harry's media fallout, William said he wanted to reach out, but didn't. I feared breaking the crown. I feared breaking Dad. He described watching old interviews of Diana, particularly one from 1996, where she said, "Being silent doesn't mean I'm weak. It means I'm surviving." He admitted those words haunted him. Then came a memory that stopped the room cold. William turned to Harry and said, "You never knew this, but the night before Mum's funeral, I heard her voice. I was staring at her photo in the corridor, and I remember thinking, she wouldn't want us this way, at war." Pulled apart, Harry's expression didn't change, but his eyes welled up. He hadn't heard this before. Not from William. William ended his moment with a line that would dominate headlines later that day. "I've failed to speak for her, but I won't fail again." It was raw, honest, and rare, not just for a royal, but for a future king. And as he returned to his seat for the first time in years, he and Harry locked eyes and held it. Harry had listened silently, but his stillness wasn't cold. It was careful, because now, for the first time since stepping away from royal life, he wasn't speaking to the media. He was speaking to his brother and to the woman they both still loved. Harry's reaction. Prince Harry remained seated for several seconds after William's confession. His face, calm but visibly emotional, showed the weight of what had just been said. Finally, he rose. His voice was steady but softer than usual. "Thank you," he said, glancing at his brother. "That took something. It wasn't a royal speech. It wasn't rehearsed. It was real." And in that moment, the world saw not the Duke of Sussex, but Diana's son. He didn't match William's vulnerability with blame. Instead, he acknowledged the pain they both carried. "I left," Harry admitted, "because I felt unheard, misunderstood, and yes, sometimes unloved by the institution." He paused. "But not by you." The room was silent. Even when we didn't speak, I never stopped believing we both wanted to honor her. It was the first time Harry had said in public or private that he didn't hold William solely responsible. Harry then shared something personal, something he said he hadn't told even Meghan. During a therapy session in 2021, he explained, he'd been asked what memory of Diana felt the most alive. "It wasn't the big public moments," he said. "It was when she held my hand during a thunderstorm in Balmoral, when I was 6. She said, 'Don't be afraid of the noise. It's just sound.' And I think that's what we forgot. That all this, the press, the drama, it's just noise." He ended by looking toward William. "Thank you for bringing her into the room today. She deserved that, and so did we." The atmosphere shifted again. Tension still lingered, but it was softer now. The distance between them felt shorter. Not erased, but less impossible. And for the first time in years, the idea of healing no longer felt like fantasy. But this wasn't just about two brothers finding their voices again. It was about the woman whose absence had shaped them, whose presence still echoed in every decision they made. Because Diana's shadow didn't darken the room, it lit the way forward. Diana's shadow. William stood again, but this time he didn't speak about himself. He spoke about her. "Mom taught us to serve with empathy, not ego," he said. "To sit beside people, not above them. He referenced her most famous visits: AIDS clinics in 1987, landmine fields in Angola in 1997, as moments that taught them what true royalty looked like. She didn't wear the crown, but she wore the people's trust. He then turned to Harry. "We both inherited her mission. We just chose different roads to carry it out." That line silenced the entire room. There was no accusation, no correction, just a recognition that their paths, though different, had the same origin. William admitted that many of his choices, especially after 2020, had been made from fear. Fear of public backlash, fear of change, fear of losing control. But Diana wasn't afraid. "And I don't want to be anymore." Harry nodded quietly. It was the first time the two acknowledged that their feud wasn't about fame or press. It was about grief. Grief expressed in two different ways, one through duty, one through distance. Diana had become not just a symbol of what they lost, but of what they still shared. A guidepost neither of them had truly let go. William ended by saying, "She deserves to be more than a memory. She should be our bridge, not our battlefield." And in that moment, the message was clear. This wasn't about choosing sides. It was about reclaiming something they had both lost. Not just a mother, but a mission. One only they could now continue. As news of the reunion leaked beyond the chapel walls, the public response was instant and overwhelming. From social feeds to international headlines, the world reacted, not just to what was said, but to what it meant for the future of the crown. Public and media reaction. By 2:35 p.m., the first news alert broke. William and Harry reunite in private tribute to Princess Diana. Within 30 minutes, BBC interrupted regular programming. CNN, Sky News, and ITV ran breaking coverage. Soon after, Twitter, now X, trended with hashtags like #Diana Bridge, #Royal Reunion, and #Windsor Brothers. Screens were flooded with quotes: Diana's words, William's confessions, Harry's memories. Public sentiment was shifting fast. Social media exploded with emotion. One post, a side-by-side image of young William and Harry walking behind Diana's casket in 1997, and their reunion in 2025, garnered over 4.2 million likes in 6 hours. Commenters wrote things like, "Diana's boys back together." Others were more cautious. "Let's see if it lasts." But whether they believed it or not, the world was watching again, with hope. Royal commentators debated the tone. Some praised the sincerity. Others questioned the timing. "Is this healing or performance?" one pundit asked. But polls told a clear story. 67% of British respondents said the reunion improved their view of the monarchy. In the US, that number was 73%. It wasn't just a family moment. It had become a cultural reset. Historians compared the moment to past royal reconciliations: Edward VIII and George VI, Charles and Anne, even Elizabeth and Margaret. But none had happened so publicly or so emotionally. One headline read, "Not a fairy tale ending, but a beginning the crown desperately needed." Because in an age of transparency and trauma, two brothers speaking honestly meant more than any coronation speech. But while the public swooned and the headlines glowed inside the palace, the mood was far more complicated, because every word the brothers spoke had implications. And behind closed doors, damage control had already begun. Palace response. Inside Buckingham Palace, the mood was not celebratory. The unexpected reunion between Prince William and Prince Harry may have captivated the world, but behind the scenes, it had triggered a chain reaction. Aides scrambled into late-night meetings, redrafting statements, recalibrating press strategy, and racing to reassert control over a narrative that had slipped through their fingers in under 12 hours. By 8:15 p.m., a carefully worded statement was released. It read, "The royal household supports all efforts to strengthen family unity. Private moments remain private, short, clinical, emotionless. But that was by design. Any warmth in the messaging might be read as approval. Any distance could stir backlash." Meanwhile, Queen Camilla's office issued its own version. Her Majesty remains committed to continuity within the monarchy. The subtext was clear. This was a family moment, not a constitutional one. Behind the walls, insiders say King Charles was relieved and anxious. He had reportedly watched parts of the reunion via a discreet video relay from Windsor and was said to be emotional but cautious. According to one senior courtier, Charles feared that too much transparency could weaken the institution. At the same time, he privately expressed hope that his sons were finally speaking the same language again. The palace's internal press team held urgent briefings with senior journalists, offering exclusive background quotes, carefully curated in exchange for soft coverage. One line was flagged and pulled from the official release, a quote from William, where he said, "The future doesn't belong to silence anymore." It was deemed too controversial, but it had already been heard, and it was already spreading. Because even as the palace tried to control the damage, the reunion had already reshaped something deeper. Not just public sentiment, but the story of the monarchy itself. And William's words were beginning to redefine what the future of the crown might look like. What William's words mean for royal legacy. William didn't just show up as the Duke of Cambridge. He showed up as a man preparing to be king. And the message he sent, quietly, emotionally, but unmistakably, was that the future of the monarchy would not look like its past. His line, "No more secrets," repeated across headlines, was more than a promise. It was a challenge to tradition and to those still clinging to it. Historians pointed to the shift immediately. In the wake of Queen Elizabeth II's death in 2022, the monarchy leaned heavily on tradition and continuity. But now, William was signaling a pivot toward empathy, openness, and shared grief. He wasn't undermining the institution, he was humanizing it. And in doing so, he was positioning himself not just as heir to the throne, but as heir to Diana's mission. Harry's role also gained new weight. Once cast out as the rogue prince, now he was being recast, intentionally or not, as the keeper of Diana's fire. In their reunion, he became something the public hadn't seen him as in years. A partner to William, not a rival. And while there were no grand declarations, the symbolism was undeniable. Two brothers, one cause, and one ghost, who still lit the way. Royal analysts began shifting their tone. The feud was no longer the headline. The healing was. And in a monarchy desperate for relevance among younger generations, that shift was gold. For the first time since Harry and Meghan's exit in 2020, the royal family wasn't shrinking. It was growing. In emotional depth, in humanity, and in possibility. But none of this could have happened without the woman at the center of it all. And even now, 28 years after her death, Diana's presence was not fading. It was rising, and in the days that followed, she became more than a memory. She became the movement, ongoing ties to Diana's influence. In the weeks after the reunion, both brothers were seen, separately, attending events tied to Princess Diana's legacy. On October 5, 2025, William visited Centrepoint, one of Diana's favorite charities for homeless youth, echoing her 1991 visit almost exactly 34 years earlier. He laid white roses on the doorstep, Diana's favorite flower, and told a volunteer, she never walked past pain. She always stopped. Across the ocean, Harry launched a new partnership between Archerwell Foundation and a mental health charity Diana once supported through anonymous donations. Speaking at the event in Los Angeles, he said, "She's still working. Through us. through every person she touched. The words spread fast, with many noting how similar they were to Diana's own 1995 BBC interview, where she said, "I want to be a queen of people's hearts." The public responded. Engagement with Diana-focused social accounts surged by 200%, and charities tied to her name reported a threefold increase in donations. Documentaries were re-aired, editorials praised her vision, and at Kensington Palace, her statue, unveiled in 2021, became a gathering site once more. Tourists left notes that read, "You brought them back together. She would be proud." Plans are now rumored for a joint memorial event in 2027, marking 30 years since Diana's death. For the first time, organizers say both brothers are likely to attend together. Diana's presence, once used as a point of division, is now becoming the bridge that may hold the monarchy together. Not just for her sons, but for the world that never stopped watching. But nothing about this story is tidy. Pain doesn't vanish with speeches. Grief doesn't follow a schedule. And even as the world cheered for a reunion, the brothers knew that healing was a process. One final moment said it all. Cliffhanger and new beginning. As the chapel service ended, there was no royal decree, no press statement, just a pause. A quiet between two men who had once walked behind the same casket in 1997, and now stood on the edge of something new in 2020. Cameras were not allowed, but a royal photographer captured the final image. William turning back as Harry reached for the door. There was no handshake, no scripted farewell, just a small gesture. A nod from William, then a glance at the ceiling, the same ceiling Diana once prayed under. A moment passed, then a faint smile. Harry stepped forward. They didn't embrace, but they walked side by side down the final aisle. To the world, it would look like closure, but for them it was simply a start. Outside, the crowd didn't cheer. They watched, stunned by the simplicity. William was heard whispering to an aide, "Let's not lose this again." And when asked later how he felt, he reportedly said just 5 words, "We speak for her now." The story isn't over, not by a long shot. There are still wounds, still doubt, still press ready to pounce. But what happened inside that chapel wasn't for headlines. It was for her. And maybe, just maybe, that's where everything begins again. On October 1st, 2025, after nearly 4 years apart, Prince William and Prince Harry met inside a secluded chapel on the Sandringham estate. There were no cameras, no press, just silence. And the weight of everything left unsaid. Tensions ran high, but it was William who broke the ice with one unexpected tribute. He spoke not about the fallout, but about Princess Diana, their mother, their guide, their shared grief. "She once told us that love is the only legacy worth leaving," William said. The words shifted the energy in the room. He then confessed the pressure he'd felt carrying her public image and the guilt he held for staying silent. Harry, visibly moved, responded with honesty. He thanked William for bringing Diana into the room. Their pain was still there, but something else emerged. Vulnerability. Understanding. A crack in the wall between them. The reunion wasn't perfect. There was no grand ending. But for the first time, the brothers found common ground in her memory. Diana didn't just bring them into the world. Even in death, she may be the only one who can bring them back together. And in that room, her voice was heard again.